Hey everyone, Chris Stultz coming at you today from New York City, and the reason I'm in New York City, or one of the reasons at least, is to check out the Museum of Nostalgia. Now, of course, you know me, I'm here looking for all kinds of Muppets and Jim Henson related items, but I'm sure we're going to see all kinds of other awesome nostalgic things as well. All right, let's go in and check it out. Before we even get inside, you can see there's a whole picture here of My Pet Monster. We got Yoda, there's a rainbow break counter, there's Furbies, the Crypt Keeper, C-3PO, Elmo, He-Man, California Raisins, All Dogs Go to Heaven, Mr. T, Smurfs, My Little Pony, there's a baby Miss Piggy over there, Tigger, Strawberry Shortcake, Mad Balls, all kinds of just awesome stuff. All right, Strawberry Shortcake says it's time to go in. Right off the bat, we're finding this E.T., the extraterrestrial video display. That's awesome. There's a whole display here of Strawberry Shortcake and He-Man figures. That is just incredible. There's even Strawberry Shortcake mixing with He-Man. This place is just living up to its name. Look at all the Barbies, all this He-Man stuff, Pokemon, and all just kind of old Fisher-Price stuff. Look at the old lunchboxes up here. Ooh, check out this Sesame Street lunchbox. I don't think I've ever seen that one before. That's pretty wild. All right, all these cool stickers and trolls. All right, this is definitely gonna take a while. It's a shame Dave's not here because he'd be freaking out because there's not one, but two different Spice Girl dolls here. I know he'd be freaking out. Probably already has them, but still, he'd be freaking out. Over here we have a whole bunch of Viewmaster reels, and behind the Viewmaster reels, it's Baby Sinclair, the NECA Baby Sinclair figure. I already have that, so I'm not gonna pick it up, and unfortunately I didn't see any Muppet Viewmaster reels in any of these. Just an amazing amount of awesomeness. Check out all these board games here. And this Return of the Jedi game, that's cool. Look at the Ewok. Kind of a Muppet, not really, but kind of a Muppet. Strawberry Shortcake games, Nick at Night. That's awesome. More Strawberry Shortcake. Who knew there's so many Strawberry Shortcake games? But what is this over here? Not Roger Rabbit, although that's really cool. Not California Raisins, as that's cool too. But a wind-up doozer from Tomy. That's awesome. There's also a Oscar finger puppet over there. But man, that doozer wind-up, those are pretty rare. That's really, really awesome to see. And there's a whole other room over there. And I'm sure you see some cool stuff because I'm already seeing some cool stuff. But before we even get over there, over the doorway, there's a Sesame Strut. I think that's a record from Sesame Strut. That's cool. Original TV, I guess, soundtrack. I think that's what that translates to, featuring Cookie Monster from Sesame Strut. That's awesome. Don't see a whole lot of Sesame Strut stuff. And on the other side, there's a Miss Piggy, baby Miss Piggy. I'm not sure what that is from. These are only for display only and not for sale, because that's a shame, because there's Kissifer there. I'd be totally picking him up. Some Inspector Gadget and Jetsons figures. I really got to figure out where that Miss Piggy's from. Maybe they'll break the rules and break it out of its display. But again, before we get to the other room, we're still in this first room, and there's all kinds of Barbies and plush figures. And down here, look, we see Bert and Ernie figures, and even a Fisher-Price Miss Piggy as well. All right. Finding some Muppets. Speaking of Miss Piggy plush, here is a Miss Piggy plush from the Muppet Babies 2018 reboot. That's awesome. And then right over here, I'm seeing a bunch of the McDonald's Fraggle Rock cars. That's cool. I guess they're not like cars, you know, they're just vehicles. All right, we haven't even gotten very far from that Miss Piggy, and there's a Sesame Street 45 record holder here. I keep my 45 Sesame Street records in one of these holders as well. That's awesome. I wonder if we'll find any Sesame Street 45s inside. Unfortunately, I looked and there aren't any Sesame Street 45s in there, but still cool to see the case. I mean, Bert, Oscar, Harry, Ernie, Grover, Prairie Dawn, Cookie Monster, and Big Bird. All right, now let's make it into the other room, and they have a couple of arcade machines here. You got Miss Pac-Man. You got this whole machine that has a whole bunch of games to it. There's a store display from DuckTales, the movie Treasure of the Lost Lamp. That is amazing. Never see that. I don't think I've ever seen one of those before. Maybe in the 80s, maybe, possibly. There's a whole bunch of plush over here. You got Bart Simpson and Boo Boo and Patrick and a Teddy Ruxpin and Turtles. Ooh, there's a Wuzzle. Okay. I'm gonna have to dig through these and see what else I can find. Over here, there's a whole bunch of just toys just thrown over here. A bunch of Fisher-Price stuff, including the Fisher-Price cash register. That's a classic. And there's this awesome mural here featuring all kinds of great 80s and 90s characters. You got Mr. T, Tiny Toons, Wicket, Baby Miss Piggy, of course, Rugrats, Rescue Rangers, Alf, Jem, Scooby-Doo, Orko, Rainbow Bright, Transformers, Powerpuff Girls, Slimer, all kinds of great stuff. In this rack of t-shirts and bags, here is a Elmo clock bag, you know, to teach you how to tell time. That's cool. The hands go around and you can teach your young children how to tell time with that bag. Okay, this is cool. They actually sell t-shirts with the mural on it and the logo of the store. That's pretty cool. Pretty tempting. And yes, it does come in black too. All right, down here, there's a bunch of these Fisher-Price, like See and Say, what are they called? Like the movie time projector things. And here is the Cookie Monster in the kitchen. I'm not sure anymore. It looks like it says Sesame there too. What does this one say? Sesame Street alphabet. It's missing its actual label. I don't see any others that have their labels on them. They're Sesame or Muppet related. In this group of plush over here, I found a 1970s Knickerbocker Oscar. Look at that. I mean, always and forever creepy. They even have some new figures over here. Here we have the Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem Super 7 reaction figures. There's Zoot and Scooter, Floyd, Janice. Looks like a whole bunch of Janice over there. Even the Sesame Street figures too. There's Super Grover, and Super Grover. That's Super. And Grover. There's a whole bunch of books over here. And while they're not completely Muppet related, mostly Star Wars books, I did find this Jedi Masters quiz book featuring Yoda, of course, in his home planet of Dagobah. I don't remember seeing one of those creatures back there, but that's awesome. Very cool illustration. And then over here, they have this amazing room. This is actually the museum. Welcome. This is part of our personal collection. Don't touch. They are the personal items of the owners of the store, but not for sale. So let's go check it out and just be in envy of their collection and kind of raise our fists because we can't buy anything. But that's cool. There's an Elmo. There's some Captain EO stuff. I actually have that guy up there. Look at that Miss Piggy Muppet Show soap. I actually don't have that, so I am a little jealous of that already. That is awesome. There's some Urkelos, some all kinds of DuckTales and Masters of the Universe figures. Just awesome. Look at these Pound Puppies. Operation. Oh man, look at these Ben Cooper masks. You got Jem. There's He-Man, Popple, Return of the Jedi. And down here, we have the Count and Ernie. All right, super jealous already. Check out this cool Willow poster. That's neat. There's a Nintendo Entertainment System. Oh man, look at the power pad. That's cool. Return of the Jedi chair with a California raisin chilling on it. A Pee Wee Herman growth chart. I've never seen that before. A Jeffrey the Giraffe marionette. Check out all the amazing VHS back there. A ColecoVision, Alf the Animated Series, Beetlejuice. Man, look at this. That's Sam Eagle. Of course, not the Muppet Sam Eagle, but that's Sam Eagle, the Olympic mascot that Disney created for the LA Olympics. That's awesome. All right, they got some really cool stuff here. Check out this Fisher-Price Oscar down here. You know, you push this little button on the thing and his head pops up and he peeks out at you. That's cool. Gotta love that. They're showing episodes of My Little Pony up here. There's pictures of their own, I guess, childhood class photos. That's cool. Yeah, My Pet Monster and more Strawberry Shortcake. Rainbow Bright figures here. That's awesome. Over here, of course, look at that Fisher-Price Kermit right there. That is a classic Fisher-Price Kermit. Of course, I have him mint in the box, but that is looking pretty minty in and of itself. There's an Alf clock here. There's a Cookie Monster pennant from Sesame Street Live. That's just totally amazing to see. You don't see those very often. Check out all the board games over here. Just amazing stuff. Check out this vintage Slimer and the Real Ghostbusters puppet of Slimer. That's cool. Oh, what do we have over here? A cassette tape of Sesame Country. That's cool. It's missing its case and all, but that's interesting. And right below Slimer, speaking of puffs, we have the Muppets Take Manhattan soundtrack on vinyl. That's awesome. Basically, vinyl and I think cassette are the only way the soundtrack has ever been officially released, so always cool to see that. There's also a copy of Sesame Disco back here. This was one of my favorite records as a kid. Probably one of my favorite records to this day. I mean, how can you not like Disco Frog? I mean, that's a classic. Check out all this great stuff on the top shelf here. You got Gizmo in his convertible. You got a Punky Brewster lunchbox, Close Encounters lunchbox, Secret of Nim lunchbox, some Sectars. That's awesome. A Wuzzles poster, a Rainbow Bright stove. Just totally cool. Guess you could just kind of hang out here on the couch, watching TV, and just get sucked in by all the nostalgia goodness. Over here is a bunch of Transformers figures. Check all these out. That's really cool. An old Garfield clock, a really creepy Shirley Temple over there, more Transformer stuff, and a giant Figment plush with a Figment button too. I wonder if Dave kept this Figment for himself. I know he had a big Figment collection and then kind of parted ways with it, so I'm not quite sure if he still has that. Some Topo Gigio, a classic Roger Rabbit plush. Check that out. Down here we have Filmation's Ghostbusters. These are really rare and hard to find. I actually have this international PVC set, but the regular action figures are super hard to find, especially that Doom Buggy, I think that's what it's called, vehicle. And you have some Ghostbusters figures down here, including the Ecto-1, all kinds of awesome stuff. Hopefully they're not crossing streams down here because they're fighting ghosts and fighting grannies and evil toilets and all kinds of cool stuff. And at the bottom here is all just kinds of weird horror kind of toys. Mad Balls, Dungeons and Dragons, glow-in-the-dark turtles, He-Man, Beetlejuice. And if you decide you're too tired from all the nostalgia goodness, you can just kind of crawl up here with a vintage sleeping bag and go for a nap. And right over here is another Sesame Street Live pennant. Of course, that's Big Bird. This is one from the early years of the show when Bob Shiptad presented the show instead of VEE and some other companies that have since presented Sesame Street Live. But this is one of the original ones, 1980 Big Bird Sesame Street Live pennant. Okay, now back to the store itself and the things that are for sale. There's a bunch of Migos over here, all kinds of cool action figures. Look at this Bert, this old Bert ceramic figure. That's really cool. A bunch of glass. Of course, if we see licensed glasses, of course, we're going to see the Great Muppet Caper glasses. Of course, here are two of the Muppets in the hot air balloon from the beginning. Always see them. They're always around. They're not rare at all. We see them all the time. Some cool Batman Returns cups back there. All kinds of figures. I figures Germs. Those are really cool. There's even a Wuzzles plush up here. We went through this whole thing of puzzles down here, and I found this cool Darkwing Duck puzzle. That's really neat. And there was this Elmo puzzle, which is okay, I guess. But what caught my attention was this Bert and Ernie puzzle. Yes, as you can see, it's kind of all falling apart, but it's still in the package. I don't think I've ever seen the packages for these ever. That's pretty rare. I mean, wow, that's pretty cool. And you can see all the different pictures of all the different puzzles they were offering at the time. That's really cool. Asking $12 for that. Man, if I could figure out a way to like press this back into the package and keep it from falling out, I might be tempted to pick that up. Here we have another classic Oscar the Grouch Knickerbocker plush. I love how he's wearing a shirt that says Oscar the Grouch. Just in case he forgets his own name, he can like look down and read it and make sure he knows who he is. Over here is a selection of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles buttons from the original TMNT movie, which of course the Henson Creature Shop did the creatures for. So check all these out. That's awesome. I believe I have a few of these. Check out Splinter there. That's awesome. In this section of magazines and books and all kinds of just knickknacks over here, I found this Sesame Street Color Forms travel pack. Check this out. With plastic pieces that stick like magic over and over again. And it's a group of the characters and of course the 1, 2, 3 Sesame Street neighborhood back there. That's really cool. When was this released? Looks like 1986. That's cool. Still, I think still brand new in the package, and they're asking $10 for it. Very tempting. All right, that place was awesome, but we are not quite done for the day. Unfortunately, I didn't pick anything up in there, but maybe at our next stop. Now we're at Toys and Variety, and this place looks packed, let's say, with stuff. So let's go inside and check it out. This place has a lot of stuff, man. Literally floor to ceiling toys and all kinds of other goodies. All right, this may take a while to go through. Bunch of action figures. There's so many action figures, they have to put them on their side because they can't fit them anywhere else. They're literally already jam-packed floor to ceiling. They have the Earl and Baby Sinclair mecha figures. That's awesome. There's a whole bunch of TMNT figures from the first couple movies. Again, that the Henson Creature Shop did the creatures for. There's also TMNT 3, which I've still never seen because the Henson Creature Shop did not work on it. So I don't know anything about that movie. I completely just want to go back in time and make sure it didn't even exist. Here we have a Sesame Street Elmo's Potty Time Elmo with potty. All right, that's interesting. Even comes up with a sippy cup. You guys gotta drink something first before you can go to the potty, or you gotta fill in before you can unload. In this plush section, there's an Elmo wearing pajamas plush. They got Big Bird back there. I think there's even an Oscar plush back there. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see, but yeah, there's an Oscar plush back there. Oh, even Grover. All right. Very cool. Gotta love some hidden Muppets. Well, as you can see, that place was something. It wasn't really what I was expecting, so didn't pick up anything there. Not even that potty Elmo. But oh well, what can you do? While I didn't have any information about that Miss Piggy in the store, I was able to look it up online, and I did find one along with two other Muppet Babies figures. As you can see, one is Baby Fozzie with a ukulele, and a Baby Ralph figure with his hands up, longing for a piano to play. Now, while having one in my collection, I did find out that the Baby Piggy does turn at the waist. Unfortunately, I looked and there isn't any copyright information on it, nor with the other two figures either, which leads me to believe they're part of a larger set of figures. So if you have any information, please leave a comment down below. Well, I think that's gonna do it for this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe. Please leave a comment down below and let me know what your favorite item from this video was. Please be sure to follow us on our social media channels, and I'll see you next time. Just amazing, amazing stuff.